airports on a cliff edge? Runways ending in the sea? For many, the most extreme adventure begins at the airport. Here are the most dangerous ones. Number 10. McMurdo Air Station. You shouldn't be surprised by the fact that the most deserted continent in the world doesn't have suitable conditions to support a quality airport. McMurdo Air Station, the main U.S. station in Antarctica, is official proof of that. Apart from the perpetual cold climate in it, the runway was built on ice like an ice skating rink. This station is the biggest and most populated one in Antarctica, with a capacity of 1,258 residents. For that reason, the aircraft ramp is usually unavailable, making working conditions more difficult for pilots. They have to do exact calculations of landings so the runway doesn't break or the plane doesn't go off the path on ice. Also, they have to wear night vision goggles to navigate at night. The runway isn't indifferent to accidents. In 2007, an aircraft with 10 passengers crashed a few minutes after takeoff. Luckily, no one got injured, but the aircraft was considerably damaged. It seems the pilots couldn't manage climate-related hardship once in the air. Number 9. Princess Juliana International Airport. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to see a takeoff closely? Well, you can figure it out at the Princess Juliana International Airport on the Caribbean island of St. Martin, though it wouldn't be a good idea. This airport is located on the Dutch side of the island and is famous around the world for its low landings that can be seen from the beach. Pictures of it are popular on Instagram. The runway is extremely near the shore, so the planes seem to be just a few inches over the bather's head. In many cases, the winds caused by the airplanes when taking off or landing are so strong that the people end up being covered in sand or their things blow away while they're relaxing in the sun. But while you may find this place interesting, it's more lethal than you think. In 2017, a New Zealand woman died from being charged into a wall by the strong winds that were blown from the turbines of a plane that was taking off. Number 8. Narsarsuaq Airport. The cold and sparsely populated Greenland has only 2 available airports to receive large airliners, and one of them is the Narsarsuaq Airport that is located in the southern part of the island. However, flying over there isn't easy at all. The airport was built in 1941 by the U.S. Department of Defense. It is surrounded by mountains and terrible winds that pilots have to overcome in order to fly safely. The runway is somewhat short, only 6,000 feet long. But that's not a major challenge for pilots. What they really need to face is the fact that the airport is close to a volcano that, when it erupts, expels a volcanic ash cloud containing tiny glass particles, and this can damage aircraft engines. This cold and intimidating scenario has already witnessed remarkable accidents, such as when in 1957, a plane crashed into a mountain shortly before getting to the airport, killing 2 people in the accident. The pilots probably faced some problems by going through those strong winds. Number 7. Madeira International Airport, Cristiano Ronaldo. Madeira International Airport Cristiano Ronaldo in Portugal was named after the Portuguese soccer star and is one of the world's most dangerous airports due to its singular construction. Interestingly, the first runway was 5,249 feet long, but it was extended to 9,124 feet long after a fatal plane crash in 1977. The plane fell off the end of the runway onto the beach below, and 174 people died. In this case, unlike other airports, not being able to take off for whatever reason is a death sentence because at the end of the runway, there's a cliff towards the ocean. The runway's extended part is supported by 180 columns that have to withstand a considerable impact during landings, so it's not a surprise that pilots undergo special training to land there. Number 6. Barra International Airport. Everybody would like to get on a plane to a quiet beach on vacation. Well, the Barra International Airport in Scotland takes this idea quite literally. This airport doesn't even have a runway. The planes land in an improvised sand path in front of the very bay just 5 feet above sea level. This is something way too dangerous since the runway is submerged in cases of high tides, so there's no place for the pilot to land. This kind of emergency causes the aircraft to follow a strict schedule and only attempt a landing under particular conditions. Can you imagine the pilot's stress level in those situations? The only destination of this airport is Glasgow, Scotland, and when the weather gets worse, the residents know that this is a signal to try and fly on the next day. Number 5. Wellington International Airport. What makes the Wellington International Airport in New Zealand dangerous is the fact that it doesn't end at the ground, and taking off is absolutely necessary for the survival of the plane. Another problem is its 6,351-foot runway, since there's not much space to take off. This landing point is famous for its strong winds, so pilots must be really careful when it comes to descending to this airport that is also surrounded by mountains. There have already been accidents on this runway, but the most remarkable one was that in 2017 of the small plane that flipped over because of the high winds. Fortunately, the pilot and passenger managed to escape just in time. Number 4. Tenzing-Hillary Airport. Reaching the top of Mount Everest is definitely a huge feat, but first, you must stop by the Tenzing-Hillary Airport in Nepal, and that activity might be as dangerous as climbing the mount. The terrain around the airport is complicated, simple as that. On one side, there are rocky mountains, and on the other side, there's an enormous slope into a valley. To make things worse, this airport has a very short runway, which is 1,729 feet long. Fortunately, pilots also have a slope uphill that helps planes to slow down in time when landing, but they must be extremely careful when taking off. That's not all. This airport doesn't follow the common round-trip procedures because of the surrounding Rocky Mountains. Only helicopters and small planes are allowed to leave and land here. Since 1973, several accidents have occurred, such as the case of a plane that crashed while landing in 2004. The airport was closed for 2 days after that. Number 3. Gibraltar International Airport. While watching a plane fly through the air from the very first minute of start is one of the most wonderful things ever, this experience is kind of scary at the Gibraltar International Airport, located in the United Kingdom. The problem here is the fact that you don't just watch the plane go by from your window, but there's the risk of being crushed by the plane. The first end of this airport's runway crosses a functional street where cars and people circulate, and they must stop so the planes can land. The strong winds to which the plane is exposed don't help the situation either, making the landings very uncomfortable during winter. As if all this were not enough, the runway ends at the sea on both ends of the runway, and nowhere to escape. One of the most infamous accidents occurred in 1943 when a plane crashed into the ocean in front of the airport just 16 seconds after taking off, so all the passengers died. Number 2. Courchevel Airport, France. The French Alps offers an astonishing view, but when it comes to landing at the Courchevel Airport in France, this can be linked to danger. I'm talking about one of the shortest runways you have ever seen before. Here, there's only a 1,699-foot runway for the pilot to take off or take the risk of falling off a cliff and getting buried in the snow. The runway also has a downward slope of 18.6% that the plane has to travel during takeoff and landing, creating danger in both processes. It seems that there's no break for pilots on this runway. During the flight, the pilots must even correctly maneuver the plane through the Alps without instrumental procedures, and not make any turns due to the surrounding mountains. This airport is the most extreme in the world, and the 2019 accident in which a plane crashed into a wall of snow is proof of this. You're about to see an airport whose location makes both takeoff and landing almost impossible. Only a few pilots dare to fly around here. Number 1. Paro International Airport. The Paro International Airport is the only international airport in Bhutan. As this is a country without outside exits, this airport is surrounded by sharp peaks up to 18,000 feet high. The valley surrounding this airport is also usually whipped by strong winds coming from the giant mountains,